Hello students, good morning all of you. Today this is Shankar from ZPHS Borja. Students, today we are going to learn an interesting topic, that is from history, the 14th chapter, the war between wars. The war between wars. Part 2, from the period of 1900 to 1950. Yes, this is the topic. Already we have learned from previous chapter, 13th chapter, part 1, the war between wars. What was the scenario about the 20th century? What are the immediate regions for World War I and World War II? What are the circumstances of world wars? And what are the innovations and developments which were occurred during the 20th century according to Eric Hobsbawm. Everything we have learnt from the previous lesson. Now we are going to learn the war between wars, part 2. Yes, children, from this lesson, after complete of this lesson, we will be able to understand mainly two objectives. One is how did the Russian Revolution was started and happened during this century in Russian country. The second one is how did the Russia it become powerful and strong nation under the leadership of Joseph Stalin. These twin tasks we will be able to understand after complete this lesson, this session. Yes, let us start. What about the Russian Socialist Revolution? Russian Socialist Revolution. What is revolution? Revolution, it is a sudden change in a society or in a country, in a particular area. Russian Socialist Revolution. Before going to learn about the Socialist Revolution which was occurred in Russia in the era of 1917 to 1922, the period between 1917 to 1922. It is the period of Russian Socialist Revolution 1 and 2. Before, what are the reasons for Socialist Revolution in Russia? Before going to this revolution, first of all, Russia it is ruled by czars. Czars. Who are czars? What is meant by czar? Czar, it is a title of the honor. That means which was used by the Russian emperors for their honor is called czars. The Russian kings are known as czars. Tsar Nicholas I, Tsar Nicholas II, like that. So many monarchical kings. Those are ruled this Russia. Russia, it is a spread almost two continents. It is a vast landmass. The Tsarist Russia had a vast landmass which spread two continents. Asia and Europe. That's why it was made a Euro-Asian power. Why? Because the Russia was a vast landmass which was spread two continents. Some part in Europe, some part in Asia. That's why it was made. It had been called Euro-Asian power. At the same time, it is had a third largest population in the world. Third largest population after China, India, and Russia is the third largest population in the world. Nearly 156 millions. 156 million people are there in Russia. As well as it comprised, it is not only single country, it comprised several nations like Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Turkomania. These are the several countries which were comprised of the USSR on this time. At the same time, the Russian peoples almost most of the majority of the peoples are, they came from agriculture background. Their livelihood is agriculture. They depend upon the agriculture. But unfortunately, all the land, most of the lands has been under controlled by the feudal lords. Landlords. Who are the landlords? The persons who are having more than hundreds of land. Those are known as feudal lords. That's why the conflict was arised between Russian peasants. Peasants means farmers. Russian peasants and feudal lords. So there is a struggle was happened between the Russian peasants and feudal lords. Why? Because all the land almost under control by the feudal lords. At the same time, almost all the peasants, they had to pay rent what they tilled land. That is the unfortunate thing in this Russia. At the same time, the Tsar, who is the Tsar on the time? Tsar Nicholas II. He is the king, he is the Tsar on the time. He was ruled the entire vast Russia with the help of army and bureaucracy. Employees. Army means police or soldiers. Bureaucracy means the employees, all the employees. So this was going on in Russia. He is a very cruel personality. He was a monarchical personality, and he was not showing any interest for the welfare of the public of the Russia. That was going on. Unfortunately, in the era of 1914, the World War I started. Was started. So as usually, the Russia already involved in the World War I. Before World War I, before 1917, the Russian army is the world largest strengthened army in the world. Unfortunately, due to involved in this World War I, which was ended in the 1918, the World War I, the Russia had involved in this World War in the behalf of Allies powers, of course. So due to the participation of World War I, the Russia had lost their manpower. 2 million of soldiers and civilians were lost their life. This is very severe damage to the Russian Empire. At the same time, the Russian government also had to supply certain food material to the war front. So without food, the soldiers, they cannot afford, they cannot fight with their enemies. That's why the food materials also had to supply to the war front. That's why automatically, along with human loss, the food shortage also arises in the Russian cities. That's why, due to this food shortages and due to unconditioned, that is called non-peace situation. That's why all the peoples of Russia, they became angry and they became dissatisfied against the king, Tsar Nicholas II. That's why in the year of 1917, on 8th March, nearly around 10,000 of women, they came onto that street and they showed their dissatisfaction, their protest against George Nicholas II for demanding peace and bread. What is peace? They didn't want to continue the war. They wanted a peaceful atmosphere, and also they wanted some food. Food shortage was happened. That's why they demanded peace and bread. This was going by the ladies, I mean by the women. It was particularly at the capital city of Russia, that it was Saint Petersburg. Saint Petersburg, it is the capital city of Russia. Of course, this was going on. So immediately later sometime the workers also joined in this protest. Immediately when the heard about this news, I mean by the King Nicholas II, immediately he wanted to suppress this movement. That's why immediately he was ordered to his his army, and immediately he wanted to suppress, he wanted to crush the army, this movement. Immediately he was ordered to army. Okay, then they have to explain, to stop that movement. Otherwise he was ordered, otherwise they can use shoot and sight on them. So instead of this order, they were not obeyed the king's order. Immediately after some time the soldiers also joined in this movement. This is unfortunately happened. Within 2 or 3 days the movement was situation was almost out of his hands of the Nicholas II. In this situation, without any chances, without any other options, the king, he didn't know what to do. Like that situation, he was left from his throne, left from his chair, left from his power. That is the situation was happened in 1917 March 8th. So that's why immediately when he was left from his throne, immediately the non-aristocratic families, aristocratic means royal family of the king, non-aristocratic family, aristocratic Russians, they took over the government, and they became established provisional government. Provisional. What is provisional government? Provisional government means that is called temporary government. Temporary government. That is the provisional government. So this is the first Russian socialist revolution, which this was called Russian Socialist Revolution. It is also known as March Revolution. March Revolution. Why? Because this was happened on the March 8th March. That's why this is also known as March Revolution and first Russian Socialist Revolution. Okay, by the non-aristocratic Russians. Okay, then after some time another bigger revolution also started. Another bigger revolution also started between the liberals and aristocratic families and other peoples. What is another big revolution? Okay, in the same year, in the year of October and November month, October and November month of 1917, another revolution was started. What is the reason for this revolution? It was happened, but not spontaneously. It was happened between the liberals. Liberals means who are freed from Russia from the Tsar Nicholas II hands, and aristocratic families. Aristocratic family means after Tsar Nicholas II, certain remaining family members of royal King Nicholas II, aristocratic family and liberals, they wanted to continue the war. For the preservation of honor of the fatherland. That's why almost all common people, they were not interested to continue the war. They were not interested to, they want to continue the war because of they fatigued. They fatigued by the army reverses. Already army men almost they lost their life, nearly 2 million of the peoples, and food shortages have happened, and they are also upset of the food shortages. Already they were not interested to continue the war, all remaining Russian peoples. Only the liberals, those who are took over the power from the Nicholas II, and the family members of other family members of the royal family of the George Nicholas II, they were only continued the war for the honor of the fatherland. But unfortunately, remaining non-aristocratic and non-liberals of the Russian people, I mean common people, they are not interested to continue the war because of they are tired, they are dissatisfied, they are fatigued by the army reversal, and they are also they upset at the time of food shortage levels, everything they were dissatisfied. That's why they didn't want to continue the war. At the same time, they were all the common peoples, particularly soldiers, at the same time industrial workers, the same time rural people. They're almost all these people said they became organized themselves into councils as councils. Later these councils are known as Soviets. These Soviets are, it is the resembles, it represents the common man power by the Russia. So they didn't want to continue the war because of already they faced the unpeace conditions in their country. There are food shortage in their country. They lost a number of people, lakhs of the peoples, common man and soldiers. They lost in that revolution, which was World War I. That's why they didn't want to continue the war. That's why they became formed as councils, and later these councils become called Soviets. Soviets is nothing but a group of people, soldiers, industrial workers and common people. So these Soviets are channelized by, directed by, led by Communist Party of Russia. One of the group of Communist Party is called Bolsheviks. This is important. Bolsheviks is the one kind of communist group in Russia. So let us learn what are the Bolsheviks, who are the important leaders of Bolsheviks, how can they are achieved their goals, how can they lead that October-November revolution, which was happened in the year of 1917. Students, here we have learned what about March Revolution, what about the Soviets, okay, what about the cruel administration by the George Nicholas II. These are we have learnt. Now Bolsheviks are one of the group of Communist Party group, one of the Bolsheviks, Mensheviks, these are the various kinds of parties in communism in Russia. They are one of the wing is Bolshevik party, of course. So the Bolshevik party leader is the Mr. Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. He was a great socialist and communist who brings equality among the people, and he, according to himself, nobody should be rich and nobody should be poor, all are equal. He is always trying to lay on the trying for on this ideology, that is called all are equality. Yes, Lenin. Okay, Lenin is a very great communist and socialist, of course. So under the leadership of Bolsheviks, they become popularized and they was able to win the confidence about the Soviets because of they given certain promises. What are the promises? One is immediate and unconditional peace. Immediate and unconditional peace. This is important task, important promise which was given by the Bolsheviks under the leadership of Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. He was a great communist and a great socialist. He is always working for equality of the man, equality of the society. Okay, so the first task is, the first promise is immediate and unconditional peace. This is the main target of the common people of Russia. At the same time, nationalize the all lands and redistribute to peasants, redistribute to the peasants. This is another promise. And third one is control the prices. Already food shortage was happened, already we have learned. That's why the prices is rapidly growing on. That's why control the prices. This is the third promise, control the prices. And fourth one is nationalize the all banks and factories. These are the four promises which were delivered, which was given by the Bolshevik party. Immediately they won the confidence about the Soviets. Immediately under the leadership of Bolsheviks, all the Soviets, they became captured the power in the year of 1917 October and November month from the they captured from the power from the provisional government. Provisional government means this is the temporary government which was established by the liberals and aristocratic family members, of course. So unfortunately, the unconditional peace was not revived, not recovered, not returned by this activity. Why? Because the white armies means aristocratic family members are there. Already we have learned. Aristocrat families, aristocratic monarchist, Russian monarchist, and some anti-communist soldiers. Some soldiers also there, those who are against these Bolsheviks, all the anti-communist soldiers and aristocratic family army, that is called white army. Their army known as white army. These the communist party army is red army, white army and aristocratic family members, their strength, and also anti-communist soldiers, those who are encouraged with the help of Britain, France, America and Japan. So unfortunately, these all forces was defeated by the Bolsheviks under the leadership of Lenin in the year of 1920. Okay, then second revolution was completed. That is called October Revolution 1917. This is the second revolution. Of course, immediately when the revolution was completed, the power has been captured by the Bolsheviks under the leadership of Lenin. Immediately he announced the Russian Empire was ended. And automatically he was permitted to several nations. What are those already countries? Those which countries are integrated? Comprised with all the previous Russia. Ukraine, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, something like those countries are permitted to allow. They can continue their existence into be independent, of course. So that is permitted. At the same time, gradually number of nations has been joined in the USSR, which was set up in the year of 1924. USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which was set up in the year of 1924. This is the after capturing the power by the Bolsheviks, they were declared, the Russian Empire had been come to an ended, and they are also permitted number of nations which are already existed, which are already comprised with the Russia Empire. They were also allowed to continue their identity, continue their existence. And also number of countries gradually, more than one number of countries are gradually joining in the USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which was set up in the year of 1924. That's all. Automatically another one, They also, Bolsheviks are also, they began with a great experimentation, great experiment, with build a nation without exploiters, like feudal lords, kings, and capitalists. Okay, they began the great experiment with a country. The country, build a country without exploiters, like feudal lords, landlords, or kings, or any capitalist. And also, they wanted to build a society. Without inequalities of the people on the basis of gender, language. Okay, gender and language, of course. So this is the automatically, okay, gender and language. So this is the great experimentation by the Bolshevik party. So this is the that is the Russian Socialist revolution, which was happened in the year of 1917 on March. It was first revolution. It is also known as the March Revolution. And the revolution was October Revolution in November in the year of 1917. And everything was led by Mr. Lenin. He is the great socialist and communist of Russia. Okay. So the next task is, how did the Russia has emerged as the powerful nation under the leadership of Joseph Stalin? That is the objective. That is the another concept. So in the year of 1924, unfortunately, the Lenin was died. The Lenin, who was the most greatest socialist and communist, the Lenin, Vladimir Lenin, he was died. So who will lead the country? Who will take the responsibility? Who is the next leader of the Communist Party of Russia? So Mr. Joseph Stalin was emerged as the powerful leader of the Russia in the year of 1924. When he came into power, immediately he used it to absolute control, and he was put an end against all the opposition parties and opposition leaders. This is the first activity done by the Mr. Stalin. Automatically, he was also used undisputed power. What is undisputed power? Already he was controlled, he was regulated all the opposition parties in the Russia. He was killed almost those who are against him. Immediately he was killing by him. Of course, there is no questioning, there is no option, there is no alternative. That's why using his undisputed power, he wanted to build the Russia. It is a powerful economic country. He wanted to make Russia is the powerful nation, a great nation. That's why he used it to absolute power and undisputed power for the making of the country as a powerful nation. That's why he was targeted. Particularly, he wanted to build a nation as a powerful economic country. That's why he was prepared. He was launched planned economic development. Yes. How we will achieve our goals without planning? Without planning we cannot do. Like proper planning, with proper planning only we can achieve our goals and we can have our objectives. Like so, first of all, he set up the planned economic development program. So in the part of planned economic development, he was launched, he was initiated, he was implemented the first 5-year plans in Russia. The first 5-year plans, which were implemented and launched by the 1928 in Russia. The whole in old history, the which country the first time initiated, launched 5-year plans, implemented 5-year plans is called Russia by the Stalin in the year of 1928. At the same time, he wanted to, in the part of planned economic development, it has the planned economic development, it had a twin objectives also. Twin objectives. What are the twin objectives? One is rapid industrialization. Rapid industrialization. And the second one is collectivization of agriculture. These are the twin tasks which was emphasized by the Mr. Stalin. Okay, the Stalin was concentrated on the planned economic development. In the part of planned economic development, he wanted to make a super nation, powerful nation, great nation, economically strengthened nation. That's why he was launched the first 5-year plans in 1928 in USSR. Of course, it has also the part of planned economic development, the twin objectives also he was setted, that is the rapid industrialization and collectivization of agriculture. What is rapid industrialization? He want, in the part of rapid industrialization, he wanted to establish more and more industries, and also revive the old and collapsed and closed industries. Closed and collapsed. Already certain industries were lost due to this World War I and certain civil war, and civil war also started the part of second Russian Socialist revolution. In October revolution was before October revolution, the civil war was happened in the Russian Socialist revolution by the Lenin army and white army of the Russian monarchist, of course. So in the part of rapid industrialization, he wanted to establish number of new more and more industries and revive the old and closed and collapsed industries. Anyway, he wanted to keep concentration on the industrialization. Then without rapid industrialization, the country will not go progress. That's why. And then the one, collectivization of agriculture. What is collectivization of agriculture? This is very important to us. So almost all the land, most of the land under control by the landlords. Okay, and feudal lords. Of course, in that Russia, lakhs of farmers are there. Each farmer, some farmers had 1 acre land, some farmers have 3 acres of land, and some farmers have 5 acres of land, some farmers have 10 acres of land, and some farmers are 100 acres of land, some farmers have 200 acres of land. So like little bits of land they are having. That's why he wanted to collectivize all the lands. He wanted to remove all the borders. Immediately he called for all the small farmers and marginal farmers and landlords. All land, everybody, every farmer, every peasant, every landlord, everybody must give up their land to the government. And they have to work in the same piece of land, and these are called collective farms. The collective farms were arranged by the Mr. Stalin. So number of farmers have very little bit of land, simple very small piece of lands, I mean, some persons are having more than 10 acres, more than 100 acres, more than 50 acres like that. So he wanted to jointly doing the, I mean, do the farming. I mean, that is called collective farms. That's why it is a call for shift from the small scale agricultural land to large scale agricultural land. Every farmer, every peasant, every landlord has to be submit their land along with their cattle, animals, I mean tools and machines. And this is the wonderful activity, wonderful program taken by the Mr. Stalin. Of course, most of the thousands of the farmers, thousands of the landlords and big farmers and large farmers, they become resisted, they become refused the idea, the order of the Stalin. Most of those who are against him, they were become expelled. Expelled means they become thrown out from the, sent out from the Russian country. And some peasants, those who are against him, they were hanged. Some peasants were suppressed. So like this, so many people were harassed by the Stalin because of they are against himself, because of their motto. His motto is collectivization of agriculture. So without with in the simple agricultural land is not able to progress, getting full production. That's why all the farmers jointly doing the farming in the same piece of land, and they will be divided the profit which was produced from that land, that will be shared among them. That is the task by the Stalin. Of course, in the year of 1920, due to this activity, in the year of 929 and 930, a great, a severe famine was happened. So most of the peoples were, they lost their lives due to severe famine, of course. But initially, that agricultural production was declined. But after later some time, the agricultural production was rose very rapidly, and industrially also USSR well developed, and particularly finally all the industries has been owned by the Russia. All industries has been owned by the Russian. No private, no other peoples. Everything under control by the Russia. And all factories, all companies, everything was under control by the Russian government. They did not allow any free market. Free market. What free market means? In our India, free market is there. So anybody can sell the product, anybody can produce the product, anybody can transport the product. So private persons are involved in this our economic system. But in this Russia, they are not allowed to free market. So every product, every good, every service has to be directly sold to the directly consumers. That is the very, very important element in this period of Stalin. So this is the one kind of concept. Another one, due to rapid industrialization, for example, it resulted very dangerous, very unhealthy working conditions of the labor. Okay, of course, one kind of action was taken by the Stalin, that is rapid industrialization. Due to rapid industrialization, the working conditions, hard conditions of living, everything was happened. Particularly in Magnitogorsk, one of the city, in that area, one steel plant was also established by that was achieved within 3 years. Unfortunately, it was within 1 year, it was stoppage nearly 550 times. Even during the winter season below 40 degrees of temperature. Okay, most of the workers, they have to had to climb it down from the 4th floor to ground floor, and they have to dash the crossing roads towards the toilets. So many bad and hard working conditions also arised from the rapid industrialization. This is the result of the rapid industrialization. At the same time, during his period, Joseph Stalin also, he was achieved so many successes. Particularly during the period of Joseph Stalin, he also, schooling system was developed in his period. Schooling system, this is important. Schooling system was developed. At the same time, he arranged universities. He arranged universities for all factory workers and peasants. This is very important. And creches for, I mean, the children who are having children. I mean, working women, the children of working women. Creches. I mean, it is the child care centers in factory premises. At the same time, cheap healthcare facilities also provided by the Stalin. And modern living quarters also arranged by the Stalin. So these are all very much achievements which were created and established by the Joseph Stalin period. He also achieved full employment for all its citizens. This is important. Full employment achieved. And automatically he also improved he was able to, I mean, the Russian government is able to improve the standard of living of all citizens. Standard of living. He also managed universal literacy and primary education. Yes, this is example. Okay, during the period of Joseph Stalin, he was, established a number of, during his period, it was, his vision is, schooling education system also, he was concentrated on the schooling system. That's why the extended schooling system was provided, and universities was provided for the working, workers, factory workers and peasants. And creatures also established by the children of working women, and cheap healthcare facilities to also provided by the Stalin, and modern living quarters also provided by the all workers, those who are working in the factories. But all these facilities were provided by the Stalin, of course, but these are uneven because of resources are limited. Facilities are more, but resources are limited. That's why these are all looking like uneven situation. Of course, he was also achieved, full employment for all his citizens, and also he was improved. He was able to improve all the people's of standards of living. This is very important. And also he was managed universalized literacy and primary education. As well as in the same period, the Western countries means America and some other countries, they become faced Great Depression, which was happened in the year of 1929. It was continued up to 1939, of course. But almost Western countries, lakhs of workers, they become lost their jobs. And thousands of peasants, they found the falling down of the prices, crashing down of their prices of their goods, because of a number of factors are closed down, and due to economic breakdown. There is no supply, there is no demand. In the situation, Western countries, they became faced terrific and severe problems, because of under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, Russia was highly escaped from this Great Depression. Why? Because they were Russia had been prided itself, because of Russia was escaped from the Great Depression, because of it was not interconnected with the international market. It was not integrated with the international market. This is important. It was a self market. It was not allowed to free market. It was completely, everything is owned by the government of Russia. That's why how the Russia escaped from the Great Depression, because of it was not integrated with the international market, and it also had planned economic development. It had a planned economic development, and it also implemented 5 years plans. That's why. What is planned economic development? In that economic development, in this economic system, the government take a decision what to do produce, how much to do produce, and everything will be managed by the government. That is called planned economic development. So it was enabled them, the balance between supply and demand, balance between. So this is there is no scope for surplus, there is no scope for deficit, like that. So that is the planned economy. That is the reason for the Russia easily escaped from the Great Depression. And next one is, however, this was going on by the wonderful steps was going on by the Joseph, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin. But unfortunately, most of the, all these tasks are, however, all these situations, everything was going on with the help of, through only by the centralized, that is called centralized political power, centralized political power. All these activities, which are the activities, every activity, particularly he was unquestioned power. He established unquestioned power, undisputed power, absolute control over the country. Everything was under control of Stalin. That's why he was easily did certain activities, certain progress by his activities. One is centralized political power, that is by the Communist Party and its leaders. That is, and also they are not denial. They also denial of the ordinary, liberty, democratic liberty to the citizens. And also they also killed number of number of peasants and landlords, those who are against him, and number of opposition leaders also. So every centralized of the political power by the hands of the Communist Party and its leaders. All these activities are done by easily by the Joseph Stalin. Why? Because the complete centralized political power has been vested in the hands of the Communist Party and its leaders, and also they are not allowed, they refused the minimum democratic liberty also not provided to the ordinary peoples of the Russia. And third one is they killed, they murdered, they hanged number of opposition party leaders, those who are against him, those who are not agreed with them, because of they were killed by the everything was done by the Mr. Stalin. Because of this is the only for they said that all these activities are did by them because of they wanted to build the socialism, because of the build the socialism, and they wanted to also spoil the conspiracies of those who are capitalistic countries like Britain, France, America, Japan. They are always constantly trying to undermine the USSR. They wanted to suppress the USSR, degrade the USSR. That's why these are activities are automatically, these are compulsory, necessary activities by the Stalin. That is their declaration, which were decision taken by the Stalin. Of course, most of the peoples, most of the world countries, they become inspired the experience of Russia. What are the countries? The Russian experience, USSR has been, the communism, socialism, everything was resulted from the Russian Socialist Revolution, under the leadership of Lenin and Stalin. Of course, so most of the countries, they become inspired by the USSR experience. They become resulted, equality and national liberation. These are the important ideals. Okay, equality and national liberation. So, which are resulted by the USSR, from the socialist, Russian socialist revolution. But most of the countries across the world, they become inspired, and they become so many people, so they become turned into communists, and they become try to taking communist revolutions in their countries. revolutionaries, communist revolution in their countries, of course, as well as from our India, particularly M.N. Roy, Rabindranath Tagore, and Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru, some extent leaders are become inspired from the USSR because of in spite of certain negative thing incidents also, and the part of communism also there. What are the negative? I mean, they were not allowed opposition parties, and also they are killed number of opposition party leaders. So they accept these things. Remaining are they were inspired from the USSR. So many other peoples also they become horrified. They become shocked how the Russian government had become eliminate the opposition leaders, and how the refused multi-party democracy, and freedom. So many other countries also they become shocked, they become horrified, terrified, they become feared. I mean, how the elimination was, how the violent elimination, violent elimination of the opposition party leaders and somebody, and they are not allowed to multi-party democracy system in Russia, as well as freedom also not provided to all the peoples of common peoples in Russia. So that's why most of the many other peoples also they become shocked. So finally, Mr. George Orwell, he was a famous satirical novelist. He who wrote the Animal Farm. It is a satirical novel which was written by George Orwell. In this novel, he was expressed how the Russian ideals, certain ideals, which are national liberation, the equality, and multi-party democracy, everything, whatever the ideals of Russian Revolution which are resulted, how they were compromised, how they were misused in this Russia. He was mentioned in this book, George Orwell, Animal Farm. This is the students. This is the topic today. We have understand from this session. How did the Russian Revolution was started, and how the Mr. Stalin was emerged as the powerful nation in Russia, and what are the impacts, what are the results from the Russian Revolution across the world. Everything we have learnt from this session. I hope you understand very well. That's all for today. We will be explaining on next video. Until then, bye.